This one's for my young managers out there. First off, take a deep breath. Dealing with a disengaged team member or an entire team that is checked out is one of the most stressful, isolating experiences a young manager can face. Relax, breathe, it's okay. It is incredibly easy to take it personally, to feel like you are failing, or to assume that your entire team is just lazy and unmotivated. But before you start pointing fingers at yourself or your team, you need to understand that the root of this disengagement is likely a simple misunderstanding of what your job actually is. Most young managers accidentally use an outdated industrial area playbook and are in fact managing the wrong thing. And what's the wrong thing you shouldn't be managing? Here's the answer that will probably surprise you. People. You're not supposed to manage people at all. What do I mean? Bear with me, it'll all make sense in just a little bit. But first, let's focus on fixing things right now by turning to the wisdom of Peter Drucker. Drucker observed a massive shift in the modern workforce. We transitioned from an economy of manual laborers doing repetitive tasks to an economy of highly educated knowledge workers. If your team is disengaged, it is highly likely that you are trying to manage them the way a 1920s factory boss would manage a floor of assembly line workers. If you want to re-engage your team, you need to throw out the old playbook and apply Drucker's 5 core principles of managing modern knowledge workers. Principle 1, treat your team as partners, not subordinates. Back in the old days, the company held all the power because the company owned the means of production, the factories, the raw materials, and the machines. The worker during those times was a true subordinate who desperately needed the company just to survive. Today, that entire dynamic has flipped. Your team members are knowledge workers, which means the most valuable piece of equipment they use is the brain sitting right between their ears. They own their own means of production, and even better, it is highly portable. Because they can take their knowledge and leave whenever they want, they are not your subordinates. They are your equals, your associates, and your partners. If a team member is disengaged, it might be because you are talking down to them or treating them like a cog in a machine. Start approaching them as an equal partner in the business, and you'll see their posture change drastically. But recognizing them as a partner is only half the battle, because even partners disengage. And the reason why comes down to something Drucker said that most managers have never heard of. That's Principle 2. Principle 2, employees are paid volunteers. Because knowledge workers have extreme mobility and self-confidence, they don't actually have to be there. In a very real sense, the people who work for you are volunteers. Think about how you would treat a group of volunteers building a house for charity. You couldn't just bark orders at them, threaten to fire them, or micromanage their every move. If you did this, they would simply drop their hammers and go home. To keep volunteers engaged, you have to constantly connect them to the mission of the organization. You have to show them why their work matters in the bigger picture. If your team is disengaged, sit down with them and ask them, what are they trying to achieve in their own lives and careers? Find out what they actually care about and show them how doing great work for your team will help them reach their own personal goals. So now you know what they need from the relationship, but there's a catch. Knowing what they want and actually communicating it effectively are 2 completely different skills. That's where Principle 3 comes in. Principle 3, embrace management as a marketing job. This principle is usually a massive paradigm shift for young managers. Drucker argued that because you are dealing with a partnership of equals, management is actually a marketing job. You see, in marketing, you don't start by yelling at the customer about what you want. You always start by asking, what does the customer value? You need to apply this exact same mindset to your own team. Ask your disengaged employee, what do you consider a successful result? What are your goals? What do you need from me to do your best work? Once you understand what drives them, you can then sell them on the organization's mission. You have to actively attract them, motivate them, and hold their interest day in and day out. Now, once you know what they value, you also know what motivates them. So now you can just tell them exactly how to get there, right? Wrong. And this is where most managers, even the good ones, blow it completely. Which brings us to Principle 4. Principle 4, respect their specific expertise. Here is a humbling reality of being a modern manager. The people who work for you probably know more about their specific job than you do. A hospital administrator does not know more about running a blood test than the clinical lab technician. A marketing director does not know more about the daily sales route than the salesperson on the field. Knowledge workers expect and demand respect, not just for themselves personally, but for their specific area of knowledge. If you are micromanaging exactly how a team member does their job, you are essentially disrespecting their expertise, and they will immediately disengage just to spite you. Your job is to define the what, which is the objectives of the game, and let your team use their specific knowledge to figure out the how or the play of the game. Give them the autonomy to be the expert. Treating them like experts is Principle 4, but there's still something missing. Autonomy alone isn't enough. You can give someone total freedom and they still might disengage. But why? Well, because of where you're pointing them, which leads us to Principle 5. Principle 5, ruthlessly focus on their strengths. Finally, humans naturally disengage when they feel like they are failing or when they are forced to spend all day doing things they are terrible at. It is stupidly common for managers to spend 80% of their time trying to fix a team member's weakness. Drucker says this is a complete waste of time and energy. The ultimate goal of an organization and your primary job as a manager is to make the specific strengths and knowledge of each individual highly productive. You want to arrange the work so that their strengths are amplified and their weaknesses become completely irrelevant. Take a hard look at your disengaged team member. Are they in the right role? Are you asking a brilliant creative thinker to spend all day filling out tedious spreadsheets? Redesign their job to fit their unique strengths and their motivation will naturally return. Now think back to that team member that came to mind earlier, the one that used to be great. Using these 5 principles is how you can get that person back on track. But to actually apply them, there is still one more thing you have to change first. And it's not a process nor a tactic. It is a simple misunderstanding of what your job actually is. Going back to what I mentioned at the start, what shouldn't you be managing at all? People. You must realize that while we manage budgets, we manage inventory, and we manage projects, we should never try to manage human beings. When you treat people like assets to be controlled, they will always eventually disengage. You simply cannot just command a person to do something because they have the freedom to walk away. Now, here's the bottom line. As a leader, your ultimate job is to simply discover the specific, unique strengths and knowledge of each individual on your team and figure out how to make their strengths as productive as possible. This means your task as a manager is to align your teammates' personal and career goals with the company goals for collective success. This is what management as a liberal art means. And Drucker sums up this entire philosophy with a very clear fundamental shift of how we view management. One does not manage people. The task is to lead people. So what do you think? Which of these approaches feels most practical and which feels detached? Please drop your thoughts in the comment section below. I read every single one. Now, if this video helps you better understand what management is really about, please subscribe. This is exactly what this channel is here to do. And if you know somebody who is dealing with a disengaged team and doesn't know what to do, please send this video to them. It is your efforts that help Drucker's teachings get where they are needed the most. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I greatly appreciate it. I hope to see you again in the next video. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye for now.